Welcome to this video on configuring email activities and automatic notifications in BIZUIT. Email activity configuration. Now, we will configure the email sending activity to notify users at specific points in the process. Let's get started. Double-click on the activity to open it. Then, define the SMTP server's technical settings. Once the connection to the SMTP server is successfully tested, define the sender and the recipients. In this case, we'll send it to a personal email address. Then, configure the subject and the body of the message, using variables or process parameters to personalize the content. To do this, you must first define properties for the activity, which can then be mapped to variables or parameters. In our case, we'll use the properties. Amount and date. The email body content can be plain text, meaning unformatted, or HTML. Let's start with plain text. Since the fields were defined as properties, we can right-click and select from the list of available properties. When using HTML format, it's best to load a previously created template, which you can then edit in the designer. To do this, select HTML formatted text. Go to Open Document and load a predefined template. Of course, this HTML can be fully customized. For example, we could add at the beginning, "Dear Mr. Requester," and paste the text we had created in plain text. Unlike the plain text editor, right-clicking here won't give us direct access to insert properties. But we've seen that properties are written using curly brackets, a colon, the property name, and then closed with another colon in brackets. In the next step of the wizard, we must select the parameters, variables, or results from previous process activities that we can map to the properties defined earlier. In our case, date expense and amount expense. We proceed to make the corresponding mappings. And, if needed, we can also attach a file by specifying the file path or referencing a document attached to the instance. Now, we'll configure the user interaction activities to notify users automatically whenever a task instance is assigned. Right-click on the corresponding user interaction activity and select Configure Notifications. The Notifications settings screen will appear. By default, automatic notifications are disabled. To enable them, simply select Yes. Enabling this option will automatically send the configured notification to all users with the necessary permissions. Although it's also possible to add additional email addresses in the With Copy field to notify users who don't necessarily have permission for the task. Just like in the email activity configuration, we can define properties to include in the notification message, and by clicking Edit for each property, we can assign the corresponding parameter or variable. As you can see, some properties are internal, such as the user who assigned the task, the date the activity was reached, and the name of the activity itself. There's also a property called connector URL, which links directly to the configured form for the activity. So, when the user receives the email, they can click the link and go straight to the form, authorization required, of course. They don't need to log into the dashboard first to access the screen. Under the Push Notifications tab, we can also define notifications that will be sent to mobile devices for users who have the BIZUIT app installed, and the necessary permissions to perform the task. We can specify a title for the notification. Copy the notification message and edit it. With that, we've successfully configured both email notifications and automatic notifications for user interaction activities.